Hi guys, welcome back. So this is our last activity on monarchy versus democracy. Okay, we've talked about we've compared the absolute monarchy and the constitutional monarchy. We've compared the direct and the indirect democracy. We've looked at some different monarchs. So we're just going to kind of revisit those and then take a quickie, easy 5 point or 5 question quiz to make sure we've paid attention. So let's just go ahead and get started. So here we have Sarah at the top telling us that we're going to look at each one more time. So we have here monarchy, we have our absolute monarchy, we have our constitutional monarchy. We've gone over those, but we're going to look at them again just to make sure we're clear. So Tony's telling us down here that we need to compare our absolute monarchy and our constitutional monarchy. So let's do that real quick. So the absolute monarchy, it's typically just one person, it's a king or a queen. The power for an absolute monarchy is unlimited. It's absolute power, as it's showing right here. A constitutional monarchy, same thing. It's a king, one person, typically a king or a queen, but their power is limited by parliament. So it's a little different, not a lot. But both of them, what they have in common is their power is inherited. So they typically become the next queen or king when their father, their mother passes away and passes the title on to them. Now, the parent, if they don't have any children, they could pass it on to a niece or nephew or something. But it's inherited. So the next thing we were looking at was democracy. So we have a direct democracy, we have an indirect democracy. We've talked about both. We're going to do a quickie comparison on the two. A direct democracy, the people vote on the laws. Do you remember everybody had to be there to vote? It's really hard to do because you can't get all the people there at one time to do it. The indirect democracy is people vote on representatives who vote on laws. So we elect people into government who then in turn vote on specific laws for us. They represent us. And the thing that both of these have in common is that people still make the choices. Okay, so that's a really brief rundown on our monarchs or our monarchies and our democracies. We have two monarchs that we talked about, two famous monarchs. We have King Louis XIV. He was the King of France. He was from 1638 to 1715. Both King Louis and Peter the Great believed they were given the divine right to rule. And if you remember, that means they believed they were given the power to rule from God. And that's all. That's it. They were in charge, and they believed that God gave them this power. So we have King Louis XIV. We have Peter the Great, who was from 1672 to 1725, and he was the emperor or the czar of Russia. So those are the two that we talked about specifically. And that's all I was going to do. I just wanted to touch on a few things before I ask you some questions. Alright? So, I have the question sheet too. It's up here, but you're not going to be able to see it because I'm getting ready to turn and ask you the questions. Now, here's the thing. If you do not have this printed out, you are going to need to have paper and pencil so you can write down your answers, and they'll just be A, B, C, or D. I'm going to keep this up and show you the questions as well. So here's the first set of questions. Question number 1. I've got those here, but you don't need to see this because they're up here. Question number 1 says, what is a monarchy? Now you need to write this down, or if you have this printed out, then you can just circle it. So, question number 1, what is a monarchy? Is a monarchy A, government ruled by animals? B, government ruled by the people? C, government ruled by children? or D, government ruled by a king? Which of these will answer number 1? What is a monarchy? If you have this paper, you can circle your answer on here as well. I'll wait just a moment. Okay, are you ready? If you need it repeated, remember you can just hit pause, back it up, and listen to it again. Okay? No rush, take your time. I'm going to go on to number 2. Question number 2. Again, if you have this paper, you can answer it here. If you have these copies of these up here, these worksheets, you can circle it, or you can just write it down on paper and pencil. We're using paper and pencil. Question number 2. What is a democracy? So democracy, is it A, government ruled by animals, B, government ruled by the people, C, government ruled by children, or D, government ruled by a king? What is a democracy? Okay, so you should have circled the answer on this if you have this, circled it here if you have this, or written it down on paper and pencil. Let's move on to number 3. Number 3. Who was an absolute monarch in France? Who was an absolute monarch in France? Was it A, Donald Trump, B, Peter the Great, C, King Louie XIV, or D, Barack Obama? Who was an absolute monarch in France? Okay, you should have written down your answer on pencil and paper, or circled the answer. Let's move on to number 4. Number 4. Who did King Louis XIV believe gave him the right to rule? Who did he believe gave him the right to rule? Was that A, God, B, parents, C, teachers, or D, the people? Who did he believe gave him the right to rule? Okay, so you should have written your answer down on paper or circled it here or on here. Let's move on to the last question. Question number 5. Who was an absolute monarch in Russia? Was it Donald Trump, B, Peter the Great, C, King Louis XIV, or D, Barack Obama? Who was an absolute monarch in Russia? Okay, that finishes this unit. Those 5 questions were your test over the previous lessons we've done. Make sure you get your answers written down and submitted. And we'll start another social studies unit, well, the next time we meet. Bye, guys.